Darkness has always been a territory few dare to enter, but it is precisely there that true human strength reveals itself. And before any words are spoken, imagine a presence walking among the shadows, the severe, enigmatic, and enlightened figure of Friedrich Nietzsche, observing the world as one who sees through the souls of men. He doesn't need to raise his voice to dominate the scene. His authority is born from depth, from an almost brutal lucidity that cuts through illusions like blades. It is under this gaze that you will be guided now, a gaze that seeks not comfort, but clarity, a gaze that strips away social masks and exposes what truly governs human life, the silent desire for power, influence, and self-determination. Nietzsche said that human beings are driven not by the will to please, but by the will to power. And yet, most people live the opposite. They bend, soften, dilute themselves to be accepted. They create edited versions of themselves as if offering a tribute to the world to avoid rejection. But every attempt to be loved by everyone stems from the same fragile root: fear. Fear of being left behind, fear of bothering, fear of bearing one's own weight. And it is precisely at this point that leaders, in business, in relationships, in life, make their most fatal mistake. To think that constant gentleness generates respect, that excessive kindness preserves alliances, that self-denial opens doors. Nietzsche, with his enlightened coldness, would smile at this illusion and say, "He who shrinks to fit into the world forfeits the right to occupy it." The search for approval turns anyone into an invisible puppet. Every opinion from others becomes a string. Every criticism becomes a command. Every compliment becomes a golden leash. And the individual, believing they are in control, doesn't realize they are acting according to what others expect of them, not according to who they are. Nietzsche called this decadence, the moment when the spirit abdicates its own voice to live according to collective expectations, because those who depend on external acceptance become predictable, and those who are predictable become manipulable. No one fears a heart that bends easily. No one respects someone who surrenders their identity in exchange for diplomatic smiles. And this is where Machiavelli meets Nietzsche, as two forces converging on the same line of thought. While Machiavelli warns about the danger of trying to please everyone, Nietzsche reveals what lies behind it: the absence of an inner center, the lack of spiritual depth. Being loved can be pleasant, but being respected requires depth. It requires you to become someone who doesn't react to the slightest touch, who doesn't change direction at the slightest breeze. It is at this point that the idea of strategic distance arises, not as mechanical coldness, but as a way of preserving one's own essence. You get close enough to people to understand them, to see their intentions, their strengths, and their weaknesses. But you maintain enough distance not to be pulled into the dramas, the needs, and the psychological games that try to capture your vital energy. Nietzsche always believed that true greatness is born from inner solitude, from that quiet strength that needs no explanation. When someone lives from this firm center, there is no need to justify every choice, explain every silence, defend every step. The presence speaks for itself. People sense the solidity and recoil. It's almost an inverted magnetism. The more self-sufficient you are, the more others respect you. The more you assert yourself without asking permission, the stronger your shadow is projected onto the environment. This kind of strength is not aggressive. It is almost spiritual. It is what Nietzsche would call the aura of the free spirit, someone who no longer operates according to the laws of the herd. But of course, there's a price to pay for that. And it's precisely that price that separates the few who lead from the many who follow. Taking strategic distance requires enduring the discomfort of not being understood, of not being liked all the time, of being seen as someone different, perhaps even as a threat. Are you willing to pay for that kind of freedom? That's the Nietzschean question that hangs like a sword over the head of anyone aspiring to real strength. Because in practice, maintaining your peace above the need to please is an act of inner rebellion. It's the refusal to become an emotional hostage to the gaze of others. In every relationship you experience, in every environment you enter, observe the expectations floating in the air. Observe how people try to shape your presence through the subtle pressure of their speech, through opinions thrown at the right moment, through silences laden with judgment. Observe how they test your limits to see how far you will yield. Nietzsche said that the world is a great laboratory of forces, where every gesture is an invisible struggle for psychological territory. This doesn't mean living in a state of war, but recognizing the real dynamics behind human interactions. And once you see this clearly, something changes forever. You stop reacting and start choosing. You stop justifying yourself and start remaining. You stop bowing down and start occupying the space that has always been yours. This is where the real transformation begins. When the search for approval dies, a presence that disturbs is born. A presence that silences entire rooms. Not because you become authoritarian, but because you have ceased to be small. Nietzsche stated that the elevated spirit is perceived even when silent, because the inner density overflows to the outside. Such people become difficult to manipulate, difficult to predict, difficult to control, and for that very reason they become feared. But this fear isn't physical fear. It's the fear of not being able to reduce you to the size others want you to be. It's the fear of confronting someone who doesn't sell out, who doesn't negotiate their own peace, who doesn't bend to be accepted. When you make it clear, without even saying it, that your peace is not for sale, the world changes before your eyes. Relationships change. Words change. People change. Suddenly, those who previously tried to diminish you begin to measure their own words. Those who previously tested your limits now hesitate, and those who previously underestimated your strength begin to treat you as someone who should be taken seriously. Before we move on to the next step, let just one question echo within you. What have you been seeking? To be loved or to be respected? Because the answer to that question determines the size of your presence in the world. There are moments in life when reality seems suspended by an invisible thread, and everything you believe to be solid suddenly becomes fragile. It is in these moments that true human nature appears. Imagine, for example, that everyday situation. You enter a room, greet everyone politely, try to be kind, try to show that you are there to contribute. And yet, you feel the subtle weight of scrutinizing glances, of murmurs that were not meant to be heard, of gestures that say more than any words. It is there, in the almost imperceptible silence, that you perceive something uncomfortable. The more you try to please, the less space you occupy. The lighter you make yourself, the more easily you are ignored. Nietzsche would call this moment a confrontation with the true mirror, the mirror that does not show your face, but your inner posture. And what's most intriguing is how the world reacts when you start to change that behavior. It doesn't have to be anything obvious, just altering a detail is enough. A pause before answering. A no said without justification. A neutral expression when someone tries to provoke you. It's impressive how this affects people. They start looking at you as if you've seen something you shouldn't have, as if you were carrying a secret. And in a way, you do. The secret of no longer depending on them. Nietzsche would say that this is the first breath of the will to power awakening within you. Something that has always been there, but that you kept dormant for fear of bothering them. There's a scene that repeats itself in many people's lives. You try to help someone, you strive to be understanding, you give up time, energy, patience. In the beginning, everything seems balanced, but the moment arrives when the person starts expecting this from you. And when, for whatever reason, you stop offering, the reaction is almost always the same. Irritation, withdrawal, small veiled accusations. Not because you did something wrong, but because you shattered an illusion. Nietzsche would observe this with almost cruel clarity. When you get used to giving more than you receive, your absence weighs more than your presence. And suddenly, you see the true intention behind the relationship. What seemed like affection was just convenience. What seemed like reciprocity was just habit. It is at this point that some awaken. Others remain trapped in the cycle. Those who awaken begin to see the hidden dynamics in human relationships. This silent dance in which people try to gauge how much of their energy they can capture without resistance. It is not pure malice. It is the instinct for social survival. But it is precisely here that Machiavelli's strategic distance fits like a glove in Nietzschean thought. You begin to analyze everything with more coldness, more lucidity, more precision. Not to manipulate, but to preserve what Nietzsche considered sacred, the integrity of one's own inner strength. And when that understanding sets in, something curious happens. Situations that previously destabilized you begin to lose their effect. That criticism that once gnawed at you now seems small. That comment that once robbed you of your peace now sounds hollow. It's as if you're observing everything from a higher level, where emotions become clearer and the social game more evident. And it is from this new angle that true power emerges. Not the power to command or control, but the power to remain. The power to not be shaken. The power to exist without asking permission. The world reacts to this in unexpected ways. Some distance themselves, bothered by your new posture. Others draw closer, attracted by the solidity you convey. And there are still those who try to test your limits again, as if they wanted to confirm whether this change is real or just temporary. This is where many stumble, because it's easy to remain firm when everyone praises you. It's difficult to maintain your composure when they start provoking you. Nietzsche would say that this is the moment when the spirit is put to the test, the moment when strength ceases to be theoretical and needs to manifest itself in practice. And the practice is simple, but it requires courage. You don't react, you don't lose control, you don't retaliate. You simply maintain your presence. This is the kind of behavior that disconcerts any silent adversary, because they await your downfall, your emotion, your explosion. When it doesn't come, they lose the advantage. And it is in this firm silence that you begin to become someone difficult to read, difficult to manipulate, difficult to reach. People no longer know where to place you, and the unknown always provokes caution. But the most powerful aspect of this transformation isn't in others. It's in you. For the first time, perhaps in years, you feel your own presence occupying space within you, not as arrogance, but as consistency. Nietzsche would say that this is the moment when the individual ceases to be merely a walking reaction and becomes a creator of themselves. And when that happens, your life changes direction. You stop chasing acceptance and begin walking alongside your own conscience, which previously whispered and now speaks in a clear voice. The same voice that says, you don't need to shrink to be accepted. You need to rise to be seen. And then, something almost mystical emerges. Situations that were once just problems take on symbolic dimensions. Small daily tensions. The colleague who tries to belittle you. The friend who demands too much. The person who expects your eternal understanding become initiatory tests. You begin to interpret them with a deeper perspective, as if each encounter were a stage on a spiritual path that Nietzsche called constant overcoming. Life ceases to be a sequence of random events and begins to reveal meaning. Not an imposed meaning, but a meaning constructed by your own strength. Before moving forward, let an image form in your mind. You walking down a busy street, observing the human flow as Nietzsche observed crowds. Not with disdain, but with a lucidity that few achieve. You perceive the fear hidden in gestures, the fragility disguised in words, the desperate search for belonging in gazes. And then you understand, with an almost painful clarity, that most people don't live. They only try not to be rejected. And it is in this contrast that your transformation is complete. You no longer operate from fear, but from presence. You no longer seek applause, only truth. You no longer need to be loved. You are learning to be respected. There comes a moment when inner transformation ceases to be merely a change in posture and becomes a force that reorganizes the world around you. It's as if you cross an invisible threshold, and suddenly, everything that previously seemed abstract takes concrete form. The strategic distance once theoretical becomes practical. The serenity once desired becomes presence. The consciousness, once silent, becomes a guide. Nietzsche said that the man who awakens to his own strength ceases to be a spectator and becomes the author of his own destiny. And it is at this point that the journey transcends the psychological plane and enters the symbolic realm, where every gesture becomes an affirmation. But something peculiar happens here. The further you advance, the more the world tries to pull you back to the old version of yourself. Not out of malice, but because people don't know how to deal with someone who has changed without asking permission. You notice it in the subtlest reactions. A friend who finds your silence strange, a colleague who questions your newfound firmness, a family member who tries to remind you who you were. They have no idea that that no longer exists. Inner transformation has this unsettling effect. It breaks invisible pacts that kept old relationships functioning. And when these pacts break, the atmosphere changes. Nietzsche would call this the discomfort of the herd before the individual who has escaped the fence. This discomfort isn't only expressed in criticism. Sometimes it appears as exaggerated concern, unsolicited advice, or attempts to put you back in your former role. But you feel that this return is no longer possible. Not because you think you're superior, but because you finally understood the price of living shrunk down. And this is where a question needs to arise. Like a blade cutting the flow before it becomes predictable. Why do so many fear their own strength? Perhaps because embracing their power inevitably means giving up the excuses that have sustained their lives until now. And that is a renunciation that few are willing to make. As you progress, you begin to realize that inner strength is not just a firm stance, but a kind of silent field that changes the dynamics of human interactions. People accustomed to emotional dominance lose their advantage. People who fed off your fragility become disconcerted. People who only related to you out of convenience begin to disappear on their own. None of this happens with grand gestures. Everything manifests itself almost invisibly, like a natural reorganization of your surroundings. Nietzsche saw in this process a form of spiritual selection. When you rise, those who cannot keep up simply drift away, not by your decision but by their inability. And this can be liberating, but also lonely. The new strength creates new paths, but also leaves traces of silent farewells. It is at this point that an uncomfortable revelation emerges. Solitude is not a consequence of your strength, but proof of it. You are capable of walking without the crowd, capable of thinking without seeking consensus, capable of remaining without needing to be seen. This frightens those who have never known how to exist without an audience. And at the same time, it creates an intimate tension within you. Will this new posture distance you from everything? Or are you, for the first time, getting closer to real life? This doubt, so human, is the sign that you are exactly where you should be. Discomfort is the trace of metamorphosis. And then comes the second breakthrough, necessary to maintain lucidity. What do you lose when you stop living to please others? And, more importantly, what do you ultimately gain? Because it is here that the answers begin to become surprising. You gain clarity to see what has always been right in front of you, but which previously went unnoticed. People you thought were trustworthy were actually using you as emotional support. Situations you interpreted as unavoidable demands were, in fact, disguised manipulations. Paths you avoided for fear of making mistakes were, secretly, the paths that would make you grow. Nietzsche said that man's greatest enemy is not pain, but the comfort that prevents consciousness from expanding. And when you abandon the need to please, it's as if a veil is lifted. You see more, feel more, understand more, and above all, you choose better. This conscious choice attracts new people into your life, not those seeking your easy affection, but those who recognize your strength. More mature relationships begin to emerge as if in response to a different vibration. It's as if the world is saying, now that you've become a solid person, I can introduce you to those who are too. And here lies a kind of mystery. Many of these new connections arise in unexpected ways. A casual conversation that becomes profound. A chance encounter that transforms into a partnership. A quick exchange that reveals rare affinities. The invisible seems to work in your favor when you stop sabotaging your own essence. But none of this happens without friction. Newfound strength presents you with difficult choices. Abandoning old habits. Letting go of people who don't keep pace with your growth. Confronting situations you've postponed for years. It's like crossing a narrow bridge. You can only take what truly matters with you. Everything else must be left behind. Nietzsche said that true greatness begins with this purification, a process in which you become less, so you can become more. And this creates one last question, perhaps the most important so far. Are you willing to lose your old self to gain the version you've always hoped to become? As this question echoes, the final tension of this stage arises. Imagine yourself walking down a long corridor, illuminated by soft light. As you advance, doors open spontaneously. Some reveal memories, others reveal fears. Still, others show possibilities. But there is one door at the end of the corridor that remains closed. You intuitively know that it represents who you can be when the transformation is complete. But this door doesn't open with force, nor with pleas. It only opens when you accept a simple truth. Learning to be respected requires you to forever abandon the need to be small. And the moment that understanding takes hold within you, the door, finally, begins to move. There are times when life seems to conspire to test exactly what you believe you have overcome. Right after crossing that symbolic threshold, you imagine the path will become clearer, easier, more aligned with your newfound inner strength. But it is precisely when you believe you have achieved stability that the world decides to present improbable situations, as if wanting to measure the depth of your transformation. Nietzsche said that destiny likes to provoke those who dare to grow, almost as if the universe were curious to know if your greatness is real or just fleeting enthusiasm. And it is in this scenario that unexpected events arise, bringing to light challenges that seem small at first glance, but which carry the capacity to reveal who you have truly become. Imagine that, after weeks of inner peace and a firm stance, you cross paths with someone from your past, perhaps a former colleague, an ex-partner, or someone who once deeply hurt you. The memory of what was experienced tries to insinuate itself into your mind, as if asking permission to regain control. Before, such an encounter would have destabilized you for days. But now, something different happens. You notice old emotions resurfacing, but they no longer guide your actions. It's as if there's an invisible filter separating you from what once hurt you. This feeling, at once strange and liberating, confirms the inner change you suspected you had achieved. Nietzsche would call this a silent victory, one that doesn't require confrontation, only presence. And the most curious thing is that, when you act from this new posture, the world responds in ways that border on the symbolic. People who previously treated you with disdain now hesitate to speak to you, as if they sensed the difference even before understanding it. It's as if your gestures have acquired a weight they didn't previously possess. Studies of human behavior show that the brain is capable of identifying subtle changes in body language in less than half a second, even without rational awareness. A more upright posture, a firmer gaze, the absence of anxiety and breathing, all of this creates an immediate impact even if no one verbalizes it. You become someone who occupies space without aggression, but with intensity. And this presence changes the dynamics around you. Sometimes this transformation generates situations that seem like coincidences, but aren't. Like that time when, after weeks of reflecting on your need to say no, you receive 3 requests for favors on the same day. Or when you decide to preserve your peace, and at the same moment, someone tries to drag you into a drama that doesn't belong to you. These are small tests that arise with disconcerting precision, as if they were invitations to prove that you have truly changed. And by responding differently, calmly, clearly, and firmly, you feel that something within you solidifies. Nietzsche would say that this is the moment when will becomes character. But not all trials are subtle. Some situations arrive like storms. You might receive unfair criticism at work, be misunderstood in an important conversation, or hear rumors about yourself from people who shouldn't even care about your life. And that's when an unexpected turn of events occurs. Instead of reacting with the old defensive impulse, you observe, you analyze, you breathe, and, in the silence that forms, you realize that none of this has the power it once seemed to have. It's as if you were watching a distant scene, whose ability to affect you has evaporated. This lucid coldness, which you previously confused with indifference, now reveals itself as emotional maturity. Nietzsche would call this the serenity of the strong. And then, almost as a response from reality, episodes begin to occur that renew your faith in the process. People who previously ignored you begin to listen to you more attentively. Opportunities that seemed distant arise unexpectedly, as if the path had adjusted to your new inner state. The synchronicity between your attitude and external events becomes so consistent that you begin to wonder if coincidence really exists. Nietzsche always believed that life favors those who take charge of their own destiny, and it is precisely this feeling that begins to take shape, that the world responds to your strength with openness, whereas before it responded to your fragility with resistance. But perhaps the most surprising thing is realizing how, in the midst of this evolution, you become capable of seeing beauty where before you only saw chaos. A difficult discussion begins to be seen as an opportunity for expansion. A conflict at work becomes an exercise in internal strategy. An unexpected separation becomes confirmation that you were surrounded by fragile bonds. This shift in the interpretation of facts changes everything. Because when consciousness rises, suffering loses its luster. Pain ceases to be punishment and becomes a tool. Life ceases to be a threat and becomes a teacher. Nietzsche would say that this is the moment when the individual begins to dance with destiny instead of resisting it. And in the midst of this process, you experience something few people talk about, but everyone feels. One day, for no apparent reason, you wake up feeling light. It's not explosive happiness. It's not euphoria. It's simply lightness, a calmness so silent it seems strange. You look around and nothing has changed. The same responsibilities, the same challenges, the same commitments. But something inside you has become different. A gear that always creaked has finally clicked into place. This unexpected feeling is a rare gift because it cannot be forced. It arises when your inner presence aligns with who you are becoming. Nietzsche said that it is at this moment that the spirit breathes. From this point on, you realize something essential. Your entire journey up to this point wasn't about becoming feared. It was about becoming whole. And when someone becomes whole, respect is simply an inevitable consequence. With each step we take toward our own power, the shadow of hesitation tries to pull us back to the ground where we have always been predictable. This is the final test, the most silent and the most treacherous. Because it is not the world that tries to prevent your ascension. It is the familiar voice within you, trained for years to ask permission, to seek approval, to explain itself before gazes that have never carried your pain or your merits. It is here that the journey takes on an almost spiritual weight, as if we were crossing a bridge that many see, but few have the courage to step on. And when you finally decide to cross it, you realize there is no turning back. What lies ahead demands a stance that breaks with old habits and inaugurates a new presence in the world. Firmer, more conscious, more vigilant. There's always that one moment that defines everything. The moment you realize you can no longer live trying to fit in. Your whole life you've been taught that the safest thing is to be agreeable, malleable, discreet, adaptable. But Nietzsche warned that nothing destroys the spirit more than these small concessions. Little by little they make you forget who you really are. And when that happens, anyone can mold you however they want. Now, however, it's different. Now you feel that something has changed. It's as if an invisible thread is broken, releasing a deep, almost ancestral impulse that announces, from now on, you will be guided by your own measure, not by the measure of others. And that's frightening, but it also illuminates. While some around you try to understand this change, others reject it, because every true transformation is a threat to those who live by the old versions you used to offer. You cease to be convenient, cease to be manipulable, cease to be useful for the emotional games that many carry like little amulets of control. And at the same time, you feel something curious, a growing calm that settles within you, as if you had found a center of gravity that always existed, but which has only now revealed itself. This center does not depend on praise, nor on applause, nor on affection strategically distributed. It depends only on you, on your lucidity and your ability to remain true to what you have discovered about yourself. As this new state strengthens, a kind of clarity begins to expand before your eyes. You see patterns with a sharpness that previously went unnoticed. You perceive hidden intentions in overly kind words, deep insecurities in attacks disguised as constructive criticism, and the fragility in the moralistic discourses of those who try to blame you for simply existing firmly. Nietzsche said that seeing reality without masks is a gift, but also a burden. And that is what you are experiencing now. A clarity that liberates and weighs you down at the same time. Free yourself from the wrong weight, it seems to murmur. Carry only what is necessary, and let the rest fall into the abyss of what no longer belongs to your path. Over time, this attitude creates inevitable consequences. Some people distance themselves, others try to bring you back to the role you once played, but most simply begin to look at you with a kind of silent respect. It's not fear, it's recognition. It's as if they finally understand that there's a boundary that cannot be crossed, an inner territory that belongs to no one else. And this territory, which you once generously offered, is now protected, not with aggression but with firmness, not with arrogance, but with awareness. And by assuming this space, you awaken something even more powerful than respect: coherence. Life begins to align in a strange, almost mystical way, as if each of your gestures begins to attract only that which is in harmony with this new force. Behind the scenes of this transformation, a silent question grows like an echo that accompanies you from the beginning. What are you willing to lose in order not to lose yourself? The answer is not simple, but it defines your future. Because every person who decides to become indomitable must face the cost of abandoning old dynamics, fragile relationships, unrealistic expectations, and it is at this point that many give up. But those who continue, those who cross the border, discover something that Machiavelli and Nietzsche understood profoundly. There is no greater freedom than having your own center as your only north. And it is this freedom that makes you not only respected, but unpredictable, inconvenient to the small world they tried to build around you. As this journey nears its end, the feeling of having crossed an invisible boundary begins to solidify within you. It's no longer an impulse nor an emotional outburst. It's a continuous presence, a kind of silent force that accompanies you with every word, every choice, every gesture. You no longer try to be loved, because you've understood that love based on submission is not love. You no longer fear conflict, because you've discovered that peace without truth is merely a discrete form of surrender. Now you move with a different posture, more upright, more awake, more complete. And this posture sends a message that needs no explanation. Whoever tries to use you will find themselves facing a wall that will not yield. And so, as this stage closes, what remains is not hardness nor rebellion, but lucidity. The clarity of having chosen not to live under the emotional leash of others. The tranquil conviction that the respect that matters is that which is born from inner strength, not from the effort to please. And while this understanding settles within you, something greater is revealed. Your peace now is not for sale. And precisely for that reason, you become someone the world thinks twice about before trying to manipulate. We've reached the point where the journey ceases to be mere reflection and becomes a choice. Not a noisy choice, made before the world to prove something, but an intimate, silent, almost sacred decision. After traversing all the layers we've discussed so far, the power of strategic distance, the need to abandon the search for approval, the construction of one's own center of gravity, it remains to face what truly matters. How to live this in everyday life. Because no transformation is real, while it exists only in thought. It needs to occupy minimal gestures, quick conversations, spontaneous reactions, the way you position yourself when no one is watching. It is in this discrete dimension that authentic power is born, and it is precisely there that most fail. Understanding concepts is not difficult. What is difficult is maintaining the posture they demand. From now on, what you do with your attention becomes crucial. Attention is the most valuable currency you possess, and it's what many try to manipulate to control your emotions, drag you into dramas that aren't yours, or convince you that you must justify yourself to any disapproving look. The first practical step, perhaps the most urgent, is to reclaim sovereignty over your attention. Start by observing how you react when someone tries to pressure you emotionally. Do you give in? Do you try to over-explain? Do you try to soften everything to avoid discomfort? This is the point where you begin to change. Breathe for a few seconds before responding. Take back the time you've always given away without realizing it. The pause is already a form of power. The pause is the first brick of your inner fortress. The second step is to cultivate clarity in relationships. Not aggressive clarity, but the calm awareness that sees what is before you without illusion. When someone demands your energy without giving anything in return, acknowledge it. When someone praises you excessively, acknowledge it. When someone criticizes you with calculated subtlety, acknowledge it. This clarity is painful at first, but then it becomes a silent weapon. You stop being guided by others' intentions and begin to navigate with your own compass. And this change not only protects you, but also attracts people who resonate with your firmness. More mature, honest, and balanced relationships begin to emerge when you learn to stand up for yourself without fear of losing those who were never truly on your side. The third step is to abandon the impulse to convince. Don't try to justify what you feel, think, or choose. The need to convince is a prison built by the desire to be loved. And when you release that desire, something surprising happens. Your arguments become stronger precisely because you are no longer trying to prove anything. You speak with precision, not with anxiety. You act with intention, not with desperation. And little by little, people realize that your stance is not rebellion, but awareness. This quiet strength is what awakens true respect. The fourth step is to set boundaries without apologizing. Saying no is more powerful than it seems. No defines where the world of others ends and yours begins. No separates what is obligation from what is imposition. No protects your time, your energy, your peace. And you don't need to explain the reason for each boundary you set. Boundaries are not debates. They are internal decisions that manifest externally. And when someone reacts with irritation, understand, the irritation is not about you, but about the loss of access to the old version that was easily manipulated. It is in these moments that you reaffirm your transformation. The fifth step is to strengthen your presence. Not theatrical presence, but the presence that arises from emotional stability. This means being where you are, looking people in the eye without looking away, speaking firmly, walking with intention, occupying your physical and psychological space without shrinking. Presence is the visual translation of your inner strength. People with presence don't need to raise their voices, they elevate the atmosphere. And this presence, when aligned with awareness and clear boundaries, creates a kind of magnetism that cannot be imitated. And finally, the sixth step, protect your peace as if it were sacred territory. Don't let just anyone in. Don't let any opinion destabilize you. Don't let external noise define your direction. This inner territory is your invisible crown. It is from there that your power is born. Nietzsche said that true greatness arises when the individual becomes master of himself. And that is what you have built throughout this journey. The ability to remain whole, even when the world calls you to divide yourself. Now, before we conclude, do one last exercise. Look at everything you've experienced so far. Realize that it wasn't about being feared in the vulgar sense of the word, but about being unwavering. It wasn't about intimidating, but about not bending. It wasn't about manipulating, but about not allowing them to manipulate you. And if there's one thing that Machiavelli, Nietzsche, and all of human history confirm, it's that the respect born of inner strength lasts longer than any praise born of convenience. And if this journey touched you, if it made you think, if at any point you felt that silent impact that heralds a change in attitude, then I ask you one simple thing. Like this video, leave your comment, even if it's anonymous, even if it's just a symbol, and subscribe to the channel. Every gesture you make helps this message reach those who really need to hear it. And together, we continue building a community of people who have chosen to live with awareness, firmness, and inner freedom.